Let's meet in order. Everyone, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty. Up next, we have roll call. Okay,
All counselors present, with Counselor Carson previously requesting to be excused, and his absence is an excused absence.
okay, thank you. That brings us to the next item on the agenda approval. Counselor Jan Vigil.
Mayor, I move that we approve the agenda as presented, excusing Mr. Carson from the meeting.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, please start voting.
The motion carried unanimously.
Great. Okay, up next, we have citizen comments. This is the segment of the agenda to where if we have anyone in the audience who want to make comments, we ask that you come up to the podium, speak into the microphone, and keep your comments to within 3 minutes. If you're still talking at 3 minutes, I would politely ask you to end the comments at that time. Ms. Martinez, I don't have any comment cards. Did you have any?
I do not have any either, Mayor.
Okay, so if you could give the Zoom participants instructions on how they can raise their hands so that they can participate on this portion of the agenda.
Yes, sir. If you're on the Zoom app and you want to speak for public comment, you'll use the raise hand feature in the bottom of your screen. If you're on a telephone, you'll dial *9. Mayor, I don't see anyone choosing to raise their hand.
Okay, well, we'll close this citizen comment portion and go to the next thing. We have ceremonial items, introduction of our new police chief.
Thank you, Mayor. If Chief Dingfelder would like to come forward to the podium. As he's coming forward, I'll do just a brief history of his illustrious background. George spent 6 years in the U.S. Army Military Police, 25 years in the Colorado State Patrol, and 4 years as more recently Chief of Police for the city of Monte Vista. While serving with the Colorado State Patrol, he was promoted up through the ranks, and his last position was as major, overseeing the field operations for a 17-county district, which of course included the San Luis Valley. So he's by no means new to the Valley. He is very well connected to our community. And thankfully, I also want to take this time to thank Interim Chief Joey Spangler. His ability to step in and manage that department also allowed us as a good partner to let George help the city of Monte Vista find a new chief and see that process. It didn't have to be an overnight type of situation. But I'm really excited about Chief Dingfelder, not only just from the strong qualities he brings, the reputation that's very evident, but his leadership skills, his moral code. It's a lot of things that we need for this day and time, not only in police work, but just the complex issues that our community is dealing with. And so I'm really excited, and I'll turn it over to you to see if there's anything you want to say or if council has any questions as well.
Yeah, first off, thank you all for allowing me this opportunity to do this. And I'll start by saying, well, first off, I'll start by introducing my wife, Stephanie. It's interesting, we just found out, well, she's told me that she used to work with Counselor Vigil years ago when she was in high school. So, and then I've known pretty much all of you. I don't know you, Ms. Krebs, as well, but everybody else I've known. So again, I really am honored to be here. When the position came open, I had zero hesitation about coming here and stuff. I've worked with Heather for years. When I was the interim city manager in Monte Vista, I called on Heather all the time to guide me in that interim city manager position, and have a lot of trust in Heather. So there was zero reservation about me coming and working with Heather. And then the short time that I've been here, the amazing team that she has built here with the other directors and that. So again, I'm just extremely honored to be here and it's only day 8. But again, it's, I can't thank Heather enough for having the confidence in me to do this and then and likewise. So I was telling her that a little bit that had I known who the alternate counsel was, that might have been the deal breaker, but no, I'm just kidding. Me and Mr. Loy have worked together for years and years and years and likewise, good mutual respect and stuff. But again, great team here Heather has built and zero hesitation. I'm honored to be here and thank you guys for this opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, and you might not want to leave yet.
Thought I could
So,
skate, just
yeah,
skate out
yeah.
of here.
We're gonna have some comments. We'll start off with, how about I start off on this end and we'll go this way. We'll start off with Counselor Jamie Dominguez and then Counselor Hensley, then Counselor Vijo.
Thanks, Mayor. Congratulations, welcome aboard. It's a hard position, but I'm sure you'll do just fine. If you need anything from me, reach out to me. I'll try to assist in any way I can. And once again, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Well, I've known you for a long time. I consider you a friend. And what's really nice about this is I know in our conversations, all different things, whether we're working out at 5 a.m, though I've switched to later at night now, so I don't see you as much, but all the conversations we've had, I've always had the utmost respect for you. And so when I heard you got this position, I just thought how awesome. I couldn't have thought of a better person for it. So welcome, and I'm looking forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll just keep going down this way. Go ahead, Counselor Vijo.
Chief, welcome to the team. Happy for you. Congratulations. And let's do good work together.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say welcome to the team, and I'm sure you'll do a great job for the city of Alamosa.
Thank you.
Yes, I echo all of that. Welcome, and it'll be a pleasure getting to know you.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
And I'll close things out. Just want to thank you. I've been knowing you for several years and couldn't ask for a person with more integrity than you, George. It goes a long ways. You've been a good person all the time that I've known you, and you always operate at a higher standard. What I like about you is that you're the type of person that raises people up instead of bringing people down. So I'm really excited for you. And another good thing is over the past few weeks, going on these different events and things, people have been walking up and just basically saying, wow, I'm really happy with the decision that the city manager and the team made in regards to the police chief. That means a lot.
Appreciate it, Mayor. Thank
Wish you much success, my friend.
Thank you.
All
Look
right,
forward to
thank
working
you.
with all of you. Thank you.
And thank you. Okay. All right, that brings us to the next item on the agenda. Police Week and Police Officers Memorial Day Proclamation. Well, Chief doesn't know. Chief, oh, okay. So Chief, you're gonna probably have to stay at the mic because we're gonna read the police proclamation and then we'll come down and take a picture with you. Okay. All right. This is first council, y'all. It's all right. Okay. Proclamation Police Week and Police Officers Memorial Day. Whereas the Congress, President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week in which it falls Police Week. And whereas the members of law enforcement and the Alamosa Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of citizens of Alamosa. And whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the problems, duties, and responsibilities of their police department, and that members of our police department recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence or disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression or intimidation. And whereas the city of Alamosa Police Department has grown to be a more modern and scientific law enforcement agency, which unnecessarily provides a vital public service. And whereas City of Alamosa, Mayor Ty Coleman, call upon all citizens of Alamosa and upon all patriot, civil, and educational organizations to observe the week of May 13, 2024 as Police Week with appropriate ceremonies in which all of our people may join in commemorating police officers, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to their communities, and in doing so have established for themselves an inevitable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. I further call upon all citizens of Alamosa to observe Wednesday, May the 15th, 2024, as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of those peace officers who, through their courageous deeds, has lost their lives or have become disabled in the performance of duty. Now, therefore, I, Ty Coleman, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Alamosa and on behalf of the entire city council, do hereby proclaim and honor and enforce officers across the country and Alamosa Police Department, and proudly proclaim the week of May 13, 2024 as Police Week and May 15, 2024 as Peace Officers Memorial Day. All right, so we'll come down and present this to you. Good job, council. Okay, up next, we have Public Works Week proclamation. And here on Alamosa City Council, we share in reading proclamations. And tonight, Mayor Pro Tem Hensley is going to read the Public Works Week proclamation. Do we have anyone here from Public? Yep, there we go. Awesome. It was looking like a ghost town back there, man.
All righty, ready? Whereas Public Works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the city of Alamosa. And where these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of Public Works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essentials for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in the city of Alamosa to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2024 marks the 64th Annual National Public Works Week sponsored by American Public Works Association - Canadian Public Works Association, be it now. Mayor Ty Coleman does hereby designate the week May 19th through the 25th, 2024 as National Public Works Week. He urges all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public work professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and advancing quality of life for all. That this is now done in the city of Alamosa, Colorado, this 15th day of 2024.
So,
Yeah.
Okay, council, that brings us to the next item on the agenda. And it's gonna be consent calendar A, and, City Manager, Sanchez, I am gonna abstain from this. Okay, Council Vihil?
Mayor, I move that we approve consent calendar A.
And I think for the record, we need to say why he's abstaining. He works at CRHDC, which several of these agreements are related to.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay. Please start voting.
The motion carried unanimously with Mayor Coleman abstaining from the vote.
Thank you. Council, that brings us to the next item on the agenda. Second reading and public hearing for ordinance number 7/2024. Mr. Deacon.
Good evening.
Sir.
Hopefully the lack of audience is indicative of how truly interesting this ordinance is for second reading. This really truly is a housekeeping ordinance. So the state legislature this past year passed a bill that restricts local governments from requiring any sort of familial relationship for occupancy purposes. Really, this is something we had in our code. It's pretty standard, especially in college towns. You know, you see it often in Fort Collins and Boulder. So essentially, given the housing crisis that the state is experiencing, that was something that the state legislature felt was something that should not be a matter of local concern, and effectively passed a law prohibiting it. So this is frankly just a housekeeping item. There are still thresholds, minimum thresholds that come from the building code, which is 1 occupant per 200 square feet. So there is at least a minimum threshold. However, this just removes any sort of relationship occupancy. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Councilor Yon Vihil? Oh, I'm sorry. We're gonna go ahead and open up, thank you. Open up the public hearing for the second reading for ordinance number 7/2024, an ordinance amending the UDC definition of dwelling, single-family detached, and family to limit occupancy based on building codes rather than a hard number cap for unrelated persons. If we have anyone in the audience who would like to make any comments during this hearing, please come up to the mic and make your comments. I don't see anybody in the audience coming up, so we'll go ahead and go to Zoom. Ms. Martinez, and if you can give them instructions.
Okay, if you're on the Zoom app and you want to speak for this public hearing, you'll use the raise hand feature in the bottom of your screen. If you're on a telephone, you'll dial *9.
Okay,
I don't see anyone raising their hand, Mayor.
I don't see any either, Ms. Martinez, so we'll go ahead and close this public hearing and bring it back to Councilor Yon Vihil.
Mayor, I move that we approve on second reading ordinance number 7/2024.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? If not, please start voting. Thank you, Ms. Martinez.
The motion carried unanimously.
Great, great. All right, good job. Up next, we have updates regarding property condemnations.
Good evening. Thank you. And this is certainly not one that we joke about. You know, condemnation is never a fun subject. We wanted to provide you an update on a handful of items that you all would have heard in your January work session, as well as a couple of different ones that are on our radar. So the first one, and this is really the one that brought us to spark this discussion and give you some updates. Now, the two properties, 1514 and 1516 West Sixth Street, they're right adjacent to each other. They're on two separate lots, but they're owned by the same ownership. We are only for this discussion talking about 1516, which is on the right, the more kind of orange stucco building. However, there is, kind of a relationship between both of those structures that sometimes gets a little bit more difficult to untangle, if you would, Holly. So these properties have been on our radar for quite some time. You can see there's quite a bit of, enforcement issue history with it. The main reason we want to come to you and make you all aware of this is because the structure is currently occupied. Now, in January, there was an outstanding notice of violation because they had no running water. That was then repaired. Unfortunately, what that then brought to our attention is that the house is not hooked up to the city's sanitary sewer system, and there is raw sewage that is coming out of the building onto the ground, and it's frankly, it's just a public health issue. And if you would, Holly. So, there are some other items associated with this. I just wanted you to see this, just kind of a brief sort of, we've had some issues in this property, and, otherwise we could probably deal with this through the criminally nuisance properties. However, because there is a genuine life safety issue, public health issue, and it's occupied, we just wanted to give you all a heads up. And we do have a handful more pictures just to show you. So on the left is the 1516, the one that we're discussing. The one on the right is actually the side of 1514. Go ahead. Again, this is 1516. And, this is essentially what was brought to our attention once the water was connected and there was water flowing through the system. It had to go somewhere. And so this is just a screenshot of our CSO's body cam footage, which is why it's a little bit grainy. However, again, this is certainly a public health issue. The thing that we, if you all know the occupants, or if you have any relationship with the property owners, it was an older couple who lives in La Jara. The husband is now passed, but the wife is still living, and it's the children who are occupying these structures. We have certainly tried to give them, resources on how to fix this, and we just have gotten nowhere on this specific issue. And because, we are dealing with health and safety, this one is more of a sense of urgency than if it were junked vehicles or something of that nature. So we will be pursuing a court order to permit us to demolish the structure due to those situations. But, the last thing we want to do is kick people out of homes. And so if any of you have any sort of pull, I think this would be really a great time to use it.
And Deacon, to make it clear, we have done citations, we have done communication. None of that is working as it relates to the sewer, and it is a public health. And so, when we have homes that we feel need to be demolished and they're unoccupied, we're not necessarily bringing those to you. But what we heard from a work session perspective is more of, if we can have a small pause almost. So if our efforts aren't working, if individual council members wanted to try to make an effort, that allowed a little bit of a time for this. So that's kind of what we're doing here, is saying, okay, here's some of the next steps that are coming up. If you want to engage with those who are staying here, now would definitely be the time to do that. Is that correct, Deacon?
That's spot on. Thank you.
Okay.
The next two are ones that we have talked before. So this is 719 10th Street. Now, the first several pictures are before pictures. I believe you saw many of these at your January work session. If you would, Holly. There's a hoarding issue, which obviously has implications towards mental health. If you would. just one more. This is the inside of the structure. We were aware of, this was the house that was discussed. It didn't have any heat connected to the property, and there were some other issues as well. This one, I think, is a really optimistic sort of situation. So this is the last inside picture. And if you would, this is our current situation. We've certainly made some progress. I mean, there is still progress to be made, but this is actually, you know, I think there's a large part of this is due to our co-responders and the effort that they have made in getting the residents in touch with the mental health resources that they need. There's also been some community action where volunteers have gone in and helped, you know, clear dumpsters and dumpsters of material. So this still is in the court system. I believe their next hearing is in early July. And essentially that's because, you know, we have to sort of keep the ball moving to make sure that we're still getting progress, to make sure that, you know, these sorts of these issues can be remedied. And like I say, this one is really optimistic because we have been seeing a lot of progress being made with this one.
And
So
it
this
does
is going in the
seem-
right direction.
And it does seem that the court process is working from a motivational perspective.
Correct, correct. So this is another one that you all are very familiar with. I have been less involved with this one, so I have less direct information. I apologize. This was a conversation Rachel was having right before she left on maternity leave, so I wasn't able to close that loophole as far as the discussion. So from my last conversation with Rachel was that she had been in contact with the children, and you know, since we had this discussion in January, the campers that had all of the electrical lines and whatnot, that has all been taken care of. Public Works removed a couple of the sort of more dilapidated trailers. And I believe there was one salvageable trailer that they moved out into the county somewhere. However, you know, Ms. Lobato, she is still she wants to remain in her home, but she also understands, and the kids understand, that that's just not going to be a possibility. And that fortunately we have a little bit more time now that we're out of the snowy season, but at the end of the day, this structure is really not salvageable. If you would, I do have a couple of pictures just to see some of the structural issues that are going on. And unfortunately, this wall essentially in the middle is effectively peeling away. So that's just really our biggest concern, is that the building's going to collapse. So again, I don't have a whole lot of updates since about 6 weeks ago, but the children are involved and they are working with the mother to get her located to some place.
So my impression, and please, counselors who have connected with her and the children, correct me. My impression is Rachel did give her resources as far as housing, things through SLV Housing Coalition and other agencies type of thing, as well as shared with either the daughter or the son. It's my understanding, and please jump in with more information, that some of you have been able to make contact, and that unfortunately this resident is fairly stubborn, that while we've been making it clear that this doesn't seem as promising as the other one, that there doesn't seem to be the buy-in that either she needs to move or she needs to invest a significant amount of money to make the location safe. And so I think Counselor Dominguez and Counselor Vijo, if you want to add anything to that. So this one's not looking promising.
So the last time that I spoke to her daughter, Wilma still does not believe that we're going to do anything and that we're serious, and they're trying to talk her into getting into housing or something, but she's very stubborn and doesn't believe, she's not going to believe it till it happens, basically.
Same situation when I contacted her. She was very vocal and she wasn't leaving. But I did notice, like in some of the images, a lot of the stuff, windows and doors, have been patched and fixed. I don't know how extensive their work efforts have been on the structure, But I know a lot of the imagery that I see here when you pass by, a lot of it's been addressed, but I don't know if it's been addressed right but I know they're doing some things there, but I don't know. She never let me in to see some of the structural stuff. She said that she just didn't want nobody to, don't come in the home right now, which I understood. So I haven't been back to see her, but she was really adamant about it. She wasn't going nowhere. So hopefully the kids can get her to move on it.
So again, it's an unfortunate situation. It's one where, you know, I'm grateful to live in a community that we're trying to do everything we can, type of situation. But also sometimes it's going to come to that very end, but it's not as if there's not other options. And sometimes it takes that very end for someone to take seriously the other options. And so, we'll continue. I want to touch base with Eric as well from a court process perspective, but we wanted to make sure you guys knew that this one is not looking as promising as the other.
I have a question. So, on a situation like this, so if it gets to the point that, yes, it's going to get demolished, is there, I would assume she has personal stuff in there. What is that step? Do you just demolish it with everything in there, or does somebody go in there? Like, how does that look? And I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So obviously the demolition process is a very lengthy one, especially when it's occupied. So, you know, I believe it's typically at 28 days until, you know, the demolition actually proceeds. And then there's usually there's some asbestos testing and some other things that happen before the structure can be actually raised to the ground. So yeah, I
There's
mean,
notification, there's a lot of that goes on.
From the demolition process, the family, I don't know if you talked with the daughter again, but they are completely aware that if the city has to demolish this, there'll be a lien. And is the option still there for them to demo it? I would probably put that on reserve to see as an asbestos test, because I know that can change the price of a demolition substantially, but if there is none, I would think us knowing her, they might be encouraged to figure out how to get this taken care of so they don't have to lose the whole property as a whole. So I don't know. As long as they still understand that piece, I tried to explain it to them that not just about the structure, but after moving forward with the second phase, there still are some repercussions of total loss of like property too, so they might want to be aware of their options there too. But I know the asbestos will be a huge deciding factor because I know they probably don't have the resources to mitigate that, so.
yeah, you're spot on. So typically with those court orders, it's the court orders the property owner to demolish the property or rehabilitate it if it's possible. And in this case, the structural issues are pretty substantial. And so at the end of that 28-day or whatever period that is set, that's essentially when the city would have to step in and you know, complete the work and then put the lien. So they certainly do have an opportunity. And you know, we always prefer to take things by the smooth handle if we can, and if it's something that they're willing to work on, you know, I think that's just better for everyone involved. The last property, this one is,
Sorry.
oh, I'm sorry.
What's the hard deadline on the demolishing of this property?
So I don't recall what the conversation between Rachel and the daughter was, but really it's the end of the summer is when we will be taking the next steps to the next phase. Like I say, I think the most immediate need is always in the winter. That's our fear, is that we get a big snowstorm and that's what's going to trigger an actual collapse. And so I think, you know, we have a little bit less concern for the imminent collapse outside of the snow season. But I mean, we did have 1.5 feet of snow a couple of years ago in September. So, you know, you just never know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the last one, this one is a bit easier. This is a structure that is currently unoccupied and the owner lives in Colorado Springs. Essentially, this is another one that we had been after. You know, this would constantly be broken into and the roof, you know, has been in serious risk of collapse for quite some time. And again, you know, when folks would break in, there's obviously a risk there as well. since it is unoccupied, it is a little bit less of a tenuous situation. So, you know, we didn't get much traction with the property owner to proceed with the demolition themselves. And so we actually have secured the court order. In fact, we have the asbestos testing on this property. We also just Excel turned the gas off like last Thursday. So we have our contractors lined up. So this should be raised fairly soon. And that's when we proceed with the lien process.
So that's an update. Obviously, there's nothing for council to vote on, but we just wanted to make sure you guys are in the loop and have the ability to ask any questions.
All right, any question, council? Okay, no questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very good, thorough presentation. Thank you very much. Okay, that brings us to the next item on the finance, public hearing for resolution number 4-2024, first budget amendment, 2024 annual budget.
Thank you, Mayor. And then we do have Leanne here. If there's a question that I can't answer, or if I get something wrong, she will jump up here and yell the right answer. So, anyways, thank you. So the city clerk's going to scroll through. This is the resolution. As council knows, we do a really tight budget. We do that because we look at 10-year projections. We have inflators in there. And so if we have too much padding, then that gets inflated over 10 years, and that means there's less we can do with the funding type of situation. But conversely, when you do budget as tightly as we do, when you have some changes, that means we need to come forward with a budget amendment. This is our first budget amendment for the fiscal year 2024. A lot of what we're going to see in here is those projects we weren't sure how much we're going to get done in 2023 and how much we're going to carry over to 2024. We have already been successful with some grants in 2024, so you're going to see some items there. And then most of the other are going to be items that we've talked about probably in work sessions, specifically as it relates to some of the police items. So with that, I'm gonna go forward. And a lot of what you're gonna see is when there's a revenue, there's a lot of times an expense that's gonna be corresponding with that. So from a revenue perspective, we are moving some funds around. So this isn't necessarily new revenue. We created a PD surcharge for municipal court all the way back when it was Chief Oaks, and it was just being filtered into a line item that had some other stuff going into it. During the discussions with the police department, apparently this has been a bug in the short that I didn't know about. They wanted to know what was happening with their surcharge. And so easy enough, we've created its own line item. We are moving then those funds that are coming in specifically from that surcharge to be for their specific line item. And so that's what that 12,000 is. It's a really easy fix. From the ARPA revenue, since we are moving forward with the soup kitchen, we were successful in receiving grants. And then the remainder part for the design and engineering is coming from ARPA. So that's that 95,000. One of those grants we were successful in this year was the CHAFA grant, which is also for the design and engineering of the soup kitchen emergency weather shelter. And then carrying over the 115,000 that we received in 2023 in grants to come forward to also apply to that project. Additionally, we talked over a year ago as we were kind of laying out the remainder of the ARPA revenue was providing a $20,000 match to the early childhood care. When they were going after some of the grants, they needed to have some match. And so council had authorized us at that point, and it was over a year ago, to use 20,000 from the ARPA funds as a match for it brought in over $1 million. So it was a pretty good return on investment. So we are finally bringing that forward. We did receive their invoice. As we talked about during the budget process, we have always been absorbing the cost of the credit cards, and it was adding up significantly. And so what we needed to do is count this as revenue. We forgot to put that in the budget. So even though we were taking away some of the costs or changing those, we needed to account for the revenue now that we are passing along those charges to the user. Again, you'll see the PD surcharge. And then a lot of the items for the capital projects for PD that were not requested as part of the budget process. We did have a savings in the capital improvement fund, so we're moving that revenue from the capital improvement fund over to the general fund in order to make some of those purchases. Down in the enterprise, we are moving forward the DOLA Mineral Impact Grant for the well generation project. We've got the grant that we need to move forward again from 2023 to 2024 for the back 9 irrigation, the DOLA grant for the lift stations, the ARPA revenue to offset the plant well replacement, and then you got a credit card fee in there. And something we didn't really figure into when we were looking at from a budget perspective is that bag tax actually did bring in some money, about $26,000. And so per that legislation, it does have to go towards our recycling program. And so that's where you see that revenue showing up in the enterprise fund. Scrolling down to the revenue for community recreation. Again, a lot of these are the revenue for projects that started in 2023. We're carrying them over to 2024. So it's the Blanca Vista Pond dredging, the mini grant that we were successful in receiving for the cattails patio doors that are going in. Andy, again, with his Midas touch, was successful with a grant, a Daniels grant for the Zamboni. You see some credit card fees in there. And then we needed to transfer from the community trust fund for the use on the roof extension and the stucco repair for the rec center. So just transferring that money over. Now, as we get to expenditures, as I've been doing these employee outreach meetings, the employees aren't excited because it's to meet with me. It's because Jasmine orders really good food. So that's why they come, but we didn't capture that in our budget. And so this is a $1,500 increase to continue to pay for those breakfast burritos to encourage employees to come and talk to me. Under the city clerk, we had a lot of discussions leading up to the budget and then discussions afterwards that changed how many hours we're going to have the person work, which is making an additional $10,000 cost. And then it per council direction to continue that leadership coaching. So we needed to add that cost as well. From an HR perspective, this is extremely exciting. Our relationship with CIRSA is saving us $117,000. So that is just amazing. It was a lot of work to go through their process, but I can tell you, I think we're really excited to be where we're at. And with their background focused solely on municipalities, it's really going to pay off. We also had the deductible that we needed to pay for the liability claim as it related to that lawsuit. So the 10,000 adjustment. You can see in finance, that's the credit card expense, non-departmental. So when you're looking at a $40 million budget, sometimes you miss something. And on this one, it was probably 2 retreats ago that we decided instead of doing 2,000 for Alma, we were going to pay them 5,000 a year, but we just kept missing that in the sponsorship. And so we kept going over. So this is just to fix it once and for all to be consistent with that direction. Then you see the 20,000 in the early childhood grant showing up there as the expense. In IT, we had the replacement of the server, the primary SAN. So this is one we kind of talked about piecing together. So we moved it forward in the CIP and we took some of that funding from the charter grant and some things like that in order to purchase it. Police brought up they were having issues with their RMS, and sure enough they were, and that needed to be upgraded. And so there's an $8,580 coming from their reserves to help pay for that. For economic development, it's the carryover of the ART funding for us to make the purchase. And then in police, this is kind of a lot of what we covered in that work session. So it's a FTO tracking, their service pistols, the SWAT rifles. We had that Axon fleet where it's much more expensive, but it's very much needed. And then the previous chief had recommended cutting a vehicle, which is not consistent with the leadership's thoughts on their vehicles now. And so we needed to add that back in. And so all of those are mostly being offset by that transfer, except for the police vehicle that was cut. Under fire, it's carrying over the project that started in 2023, which was that looking at the structure and the relationship with the district board. The Explorer program had some uniform costs. And then the turnout gear that was under budgeted as well in the budget. For development services, it's carrying forward that READY grant for the Hunt Avenue Cultural Trail, as well as carrying over the project we didn't get done in 2023, which is the downtown banners. Under streets, it's carrying over that project, the flashing pedestrian signals, and they're finally getting installed. Thank goodness. I think it was 2020 or 2021. 2020 that we got that grant, and there's a lot of hoops. Going into enterprise expenditures, we've got the impact grant carrying over for the well generators, the backup generators carrying over, the back 9 irrigation carryover. Under sewer, carryover again from the 2023 for those lift stations and the storm line. Moving down to the capital improvement fund, that's where we mentioned they had money saved up for capital purchases. So we're transferring that 57,000 to offset those unexpected expenses. Under the street trust fund, just kind of carrying over the remaining part of the Second Street design, as well as the West Sixth Street Main to Tremont carryover design. We haven't been billed for those yet. As I mentioned before, transfer for the Conservation Trust Fund. I called it community before. Conservation Trust Fund to cover the roof extension and stucco repair. Community recreation. So a lot of these are the carryovers, the Blanca Vista. You see the credit card processing. It's to align our youth wrestling pass-through and hockey equipment deposits, the Blanca Vista Pond dredging grant, the carryover of the parks mower. And then it's the full additional cost for the extension of the roof and the stucco repair. There's places that we will make some changes if we need to. The golf course, we had a typo in the budget. We were supposed to reduce the part-time ground salaries by a certain amount, and we changed the line item to the amount we were reducing it by instead of the change, just subtracting it. So that was just a typo. You can see the credit card processing and then the grant that Andy was able to secure for the restaurant patio doors. So I know that was long, but that is a walkthrough of this first budget amendment. Any questions from council?
Okay, council? Any question, any comments? No, Ms. Sanchez, you're very thorough. Appreciate it. Okay, so we're gonna open up the public hearing for resolution number 4-2024. First, budget amendment for 2024 annual budget. If we have anyone in the audience who would like to make any comments, please do so at this time. Do I have anyone in the audience? Anybody on Zoom?
If you want to speak for this public hearing, you can use the raise hand feature in the bottom of your screen or *9 if you're on a telephone. And no one's choosing to raise their hand, Mayor.
Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to council. Councilor Hensley?
I'll go ahead and move that we approve resolution number 4-2024, amending the 2024 annual budget.
Bless you.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, please start voting. Ms. Martinez?
The motion carried unanimously.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to the next item on the agenda. Section, city manager legal, selection of pieces for the 8th annual Artscape Art on Loan Program.
So it's always exciting to be able to present this one. This is the 8th year, so yay. We kicked it off in 2017, and we continue to get a lot of compliments and people admiring the art. Since we've kicked it off, we have received just shy of $40,000 in donations, sponsorships, grants, those types of things. And 4 pieces have been purchased by other people in addition to the 13 pieces that the city council has purchased. So it's always great for an art program because it encourages artists to want to submit when you can show that there's a chance that their piece will be purchased. This year, we did receive 47 submissions. We started the process like we've normally done it, which is we ran it by now what's the creative district to make sure if there's anything that isn't suitable for outdoor as far as like the material or if it was sharp and it could poke someone's eye out, things like that. We would remove those. And then historically, what we would do is then submit the remaining pieces to the community art jury for them to rank them. Unfortunately, over the last several years, the participation by the art jury has kind of been dwindling more and more. And for the first time this year, none of them rated it at all. So we deviated then and sent it to the creative district. And so you've got artists representing different areas, and then they're the ones that then rated it on this scale. And so going forward, it might be the easiest just to run it that way, because that group is engaged and they feel like a commitment to be responsive and committing and filling out that jury role. So as you know, we recommend that we select the top 20 because sometimes a piece will get pulled, they'll place it somewhere else and those types of things. And so going to the presentation, I'll show you per their rating what the top 20 are. So the first one is Budding with Gratitude by Jody Bliss. She is out of Monument. She's had pieces also with the Farm Park and with us before. It's hand forged steel. Then the next one is Dreamcatcher. I think we all know Kasha. We've got several of her pieces that we've purchased. They now live in Pagosa. So again, it's steel with a glass mosaic. The next one is Dragonflower out of North Glen, and it's steel. Next one is Peaceful Portal out of New Mexico. It's wood, glass, and stone. The next one is Songs of Joy by Charlotte Zink out of Berthoud. And this is steel, really kind of fun piece. The next one is Rising Women. And this one artist is out of Longmont, and it's a bronze. The next item is Raising Old Glory out of Springfield. That's my old stomping grounds. A steel plate. Next is Cold Moon. Sandy has had pieces with us before. He is out of Colorado Springs. The next item is Kyle, Kasha's husband, also has several pieces with us. The Cycling Revolution, so it looks like it's an interactive piece. Those are their cute little kids. The next is Air Garden 2 out of St. Louis, Missouri, and this is concrete. Next is Say Cheese out of Louisville. Next is Fly Me to the Truth. And then Sandstorm B. Zinn. This is marble stone, so it is neat when we get some different mediums. We're getting towards the end of the 15. Kirk Cease, which we've had some of his pieces before, butterflies. Okay, so that's the last of the 15. So then the next 5 would be if one of these pieces pull out, we would move one of these up. So backup number 1 is the slow dance out of Denver. Backup number 2 is Anastasia. Oh, we've had some of that person's pieces too. I'm not going to say the name. Backup number 3 is Fox, Star Fox out of Denver. Backup number 4 is the Control Tower, also out of Denver. And then backup number 5 is a surfboard out of Leadville. It's really big. And then we'll go ahead and show you the ones that did not make those, and so we won't take as long, but Harrow the hunting eagle, a different skateboard, a snowboard, soccer mom's dream, transparencies in time, walking a tight line, Maxilla, end of an age, standing tall, Aztec, different Anastasia, short stack, the pollinator, captive, short and stout, buzzing with curiosity, we, brush with blue, and springtime. So with that, I am available for any questions. You guys can discuss if you want to accept the recommended top 20, or if you feel like we should move any pieces.
Hey, Counselor Young, Hill.
Just my thoughts. I think the top 15 are great. The 5 backups are perfect, and I think we should move ahead. But I know it's like Mr. Dominguez and Ms. Vihil's their first time checking stuff like this out, so.
Everybody's
I'm good. I agree.
Okay. Good job. Great job. Thank you. Very good art.
So Mayor, I move that we approve the selection of the 20 art pieces for the 8th annual Artscape.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Real quick, Mayor, want to acknowledge former Counselor Charlie Grego, who this was his baby along with Heather a while back, and it's just growing into an awesome thing, so.
Can I ask one question sort of that's lined to this? So I know when we picked the caterpillar, I thought, and I may be dreaming this, was there discussion that asking the person with the owl if,
So what we were going to do, I think, is at the end of this year, seeing where our budget was
okay,
and coming back to council to see if you do want to purchase the owl, since it was people's choice and kind of between those two pieces is, so, we haven't had any conversations with the
Got it.
person with
I
the
just
owl yet.
remember there was something about the owl, so
Yeah.
thank you.
Mhm.
We got a motion. We had a second. No more further discussion. Please start voting. Ms. Martinez?
The motion carried unanimously.
All righty, okay, moving right along. We are under motion authorizing the sponsorship of $5,000 to 8 entities in varying amounts as detailed in the council communication.
Thank you, Mayor. Counselor Carson and Counselor Vigil serve on the sponsorship committee. We also have Dalton from our Parks and Recs department who helps with this committee and is a liaison to know like if they're requesting the tent or the stage or if we've had any issues with the events. After reviewing all the applications, they are making the following recommendation to divide up the $5,000 that's in the budget. So the division of that 5,000 is to the following. Suds for SARS, $700. And then this doesn't come out of the 5,000, but also granting them the use of the stage, which is valued at 200. October Fest, recommended at 900 plus use of the stage valued at 200 and the tent valued at 300. Splashland Annual Kids Only Triathlon recommended at 500. Splashland Annual Benefit Sprint Triathlon recommended at 500. Fourth Annual Starry Night Ball recommended at 500 plus the use of the pavilion estimated at about 575. National Night Out recommended for 500. Alamosa Farmers Market, which is new, recommended for 400. And the YPA 4th of July event recommended for 1,000. And obviously Counselor Vigil is here if you have any questions, or I can also try to answer anything.
Thank you, Ms. Sanchez. Council, do you have any comments for Councilor Vigil or either Councilor Sanchez? Okay, let's go ahead and, anybody want to make a motion?
Mayor, I move that we authorize the sponsorship of $5,000 to 8 entities in varying amounts as our sponsorship to these events.
A second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I would like to just comment on Councilor Yon Vigil and Councilor Carson. I mean, they do a wonderful job every year figuring out how this money is supposed to be dispersed, and I just want to commend them on that. So thank you so very much for that effort. Really appreciate it. All right, start voting, everybody.
The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. That brings us to the next item on the agenda under Human Resources, Risk Management. First reading of ordinance number 824, 2024.
Thank you, Mayor. We did hold a quick work session on April 17th as it pertains to this. Given some of the changes we've had in the police department, some of the changes that CRP has experienced, and then just conversations that we've had with the state as it relates to lead programs and how they're set up in other agencies. And one of the items that the state wanted us to take advantage of having some of these changes in personnel and vacancies was to take a look at moving some of that program management responsibility out from underneath the CRP umbrella into the city umbrella. And at the same time, we were looking at our co-responder program. And as you know, we're creating this kind of from the ground up. And when we had created it with one co-responder being the supervisor, with another case manager and co-responder reporting to that person, and then them reporting to the chief of police, which that person gets pulled in a lot of different directions. And so while we were evaluating lead, we were also evaluating co-responder to make sure we've got it structured in a way that's going to ensure success and those types of things. So what we took a look at is when we do fill that sergeant position, that administrative sergeant position, and we can afford that, is it might make more sense for these individuals to report to that position rather than the chief of police. So that's going to be one of the changes, not something you're voting on tonight. But the other part was that case manager wasn't doing as much as what we thought they were going to have to do from a follow-up perspective. Tim and Connie are really doing a lot of their own follow-up, which is leaving some free time for that case manager position. And so given the conversations with the state and moving program management responsibilities over, What we decided to do was to reclassify that position. So it will still provide support to co-responders from a part-time perspective, but then the other half of the time would be that program management over lead. And so it's making sure, are we getting the deliverables from a grant perspective? Where are we on the budget as it relates to the grant? Are we getting the engagement we need from partners? All of those types of things. And so this reclassification does mean we probably need to move the position up one grade. So the financial impact, annual impact is about $4,000. So it is fairly minor. But we do feel like the change strengthens both programs and will help integrate more the lead and co-responder programs. Then the other change that we've made, and Tim is A-okay with this, is we're not having one of the co-responders be a supervisor, because we want them to be able to focus 100% being out in the field, engaging with different populations, not taking 20% of your time to come in and do supervisory type of stuff. So that's the last bit of restructure. The only item you're actually voting on is the reclassifications, because I can only hire people and pay people per the pay plan. So that's what's before council tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Sanchez. Thank you, and for reiterating what we went over in the work session. Council, any comments? Anybody? Okay. Council Yon Vigil.
Mayor, I move that we approve ordinance number 8-2024 on first reading and send it to a second reading and public hearing on June 5th or soon thereafter.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay. If not, please start voting. Ms. Martinez.
The motion carried unanimously.
Okay, council, well, they're doing a good job. We're getting to committee reports. Do we have any committee reports? No committee reports tonight? Okay. All right, so we're gonna go down to staff. Oh, Councilor Jackie Vigil?
Oh,
You-
no, I'm sorry.
You good? Okay. All right, staff announcements.
Thank you, Mayor. As Harry is working his way up, I just wanted to let you know that Deacon shared that next Wednesday and Thursday, we're going to have the Army Corps of Engineer, maybe FEMA, some other individuals, including some staff. So we're going to have a lot of people walking the levee next week. Nothing's changed as far as any of the timelines and hoops that we've laid out for you guys. This is just one of those steps in that process. And so just from a public perspective, everything's fine. You're just going to see a lot of people walking along the levee system next week.
So back in March, we embarked on the challenge of drilling a new municipal well. So certainly excited to let you know that the drilling went well. It has been developed, and there's kind of two phases of it. The first phase is the drilling and kind of getting the well casing in place. The second phase is now we got to transfer the pump and build basically a housing over it, move all the controls and the piping and all that. So we're on to the second phase. We'll be bidding that little project out here shortly, and hopefully probably late fall, maybe early winter, we'll be able to bring that well online. And I think it's good to note that the capacity of that well, not necessarily the pump we're going to put in there, because there's not a need to put a new pump in there, is the capacity of this new well will increase the municipal's water ability by quite a bit. It'll produce almost 2,000 gallons a minute, where right now we're about 900. So moving forward, future-wise and planning, this will certainly help as the city continues to grow. So that's pretty exciting. But with that said, with the power outage that we had experienced last Friday, the only municipal well that has generation backup is the municipal well, and we took it offline. So we were kind of had our fingers crossed and kind of watching our water levels, and hopefully, didn't have to bring that old well back online, because we don't know what kind of disturbance might have been taking place, but we made it through it. Moving forward, I think it's been about a year and a half ago, Andy, in his grant writing abilities, was able to secure that grant that you've seen in the budget amendment, that dollar amount, to buy 2 more big generators for 2 additional wells. Took a little bit of a process to get the engineering done, put it out to bid, and ordered the generators, which was 14 months ago. They actually arrive next week. So we're preparing for that. We got a little bit of electrical work to get in place, and then we'll have, in the end, we'll have 3 municipal wells with generator backup. So as we're learning from Excel, you know, and some of their prevention methods or techniques, is they're gonna start taking areas offline if there's a threat in an area. So it's important that the city's been progressive and has taken these measures. So it's nice to have that, a little bit of reliance anyway. The second part of it is through replacing our lift stations, some of the sanitary lift stations. That's kind of been a little bit of a concern in the past, that if these lift stations go down, where does the sanitary go? You know, they'll go septic. We could have some issues and some backup. Heather secured a few grants over the last few years to get these, at least 3 generations for lift stations purchased. And we've got 2 of them online, which is the Center Lift Station and the West 7th Street Lift Station. So those are kind of the 2 bigger ones. We're still waiting on approval for 1 more, the 14th Street Lift Station. And as soon as we have that online, we'll have about 50% of our sanitary lift stations online. So big step forward. So anyway, that's about all I have.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you, Harry. Appreciate that. Any follow-up?
That's it from a staff update. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, while we're in council comments already. Any council comments? Councilor Yonville?
Congrats to all the graduates for all the local high schools and our university and our college.
Thank you, thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Jamie Dominguez?
We're graduating our 4th cohort in FLTI this Saturday. You're all invited at the center. I believe if you're a guest speaker, you'll get an invitation, but it's gonna be from noon till 3 at our center on Saturday. So
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, thank you. And then I'll just wrap things up. We had the art gala this past weekend, and Councilor Krebs, and I believe, I'm not for sure if anybody else showed up, but it was a pretty good event, real good fundraiser event. And her husband was decked out with the shoes and the colors and everything. You thought I was colorful? He was more colorful. And Deacon was there with this cool hat from his grandfather, a Stetson hat. It was a really good event, so we had fun time, everybody. Brandon, were you there too? Brandon was there too, that's right, that's what I remember, okay. All right. Well, that's all we have. Thank you all so much, and this meeting is officially adjourned. We good? All right.